I felt like because of the theme, someone should actually talk about social networks, and do I get points for that? I think I get content points for that. So I'm actually old enough that I have been on Friendster and MySpace and now the Facebook. Actually, I think I'm still on Friendster. So if you Google my name for some reason, you can find out who I was dating in 2003. But that shit is tough to take down. So I had no intention of ever being on Facebook, having been exhausted by Friendster and MySpace. But I used to own a record store, so I was on there as the record store. This was back when Facebook had just gone public, so you didn't have to be a college student. But I had hired college students to do my marketing for me. So they set me up with a Facebook account that was the record store. So I set it up initially as the record store, so it would ask who you were looking for. So it was men, women, whatever I can get, and I checked all three, because if you're running a record store in the mid-2000s, you will actually take whoever you can get. If there are homeless people with like $5 to spend on old Fleetwood Mac albums, you want them in your store. So slowly, my Facebook profile transitioned from being me as the record store to being me as a person, which created an odd situation where at some point one of my ex-girlfriends called me and asked how long I had been bi. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, well, Facebook says you're bi. And so I changed that. Oddly enough, I want to talk about Facebook and death, because there are generations of Facebook. There was that moment when we were all on there and everyone on Facebook was really cool. And I'm sure all of you were on there at that point. And then there was that moment where you were on Facebook and everyone you went to high school with got on Facebook and found you and friended you. And then there was that moment when your mom was on Facebook and friended you, and then aunts and your mom's friends, and et cetera, et cetera. Which naturally leads us to the subject of death. Because Facebook actually is not prepared for the eventuality of death. And I realized this because a lot of the people that I was friends with on Facebook were people that I knew through the record store, so I was sending all these event invitations, and at some point, there's this person that I didn't know. I live in a small town, I'm not actually from here. And I saw just in the sort of news feed or whatever it was called at the time, someone saying like, it's been a year, we really miss you. And it turned out this person had died a year before, and I had been continuously sending them event invitations, not knowing any better. So I defriended her. So I didn't know where to begin. And I didn't give it much thought at the time, but then about 2 or 3 years ago, someone who was in that second generation, the high school friends that friend you on Facebook, who had been my junior prom date. And she was a state trooper in New York. And a friend of mine posted this news story from back home in Buffalo that she'd actually passed away very suddenly. Her car had skidded under a truck. Sorry, this isn't as funny as other people's stories. There aren't actually any scabies in this story. And it was odd. It was, and this was at a time, and I'm going to tap into your collective Facebook memory here, when Facebook was doing this thing where if you hadn't been in contact with one of your friends for a while, it would prompt you. Like, hey, it's been a while since you messaged Jill, in this instance. And I couldn't bring myself to defriend this person. This was someone that I had been very close with, 10 years earlier. But every now and then Facebook would pop up and say like, hey, why didn't you send a message to your friend who's since passed away? It turns out, by the way, if you've looked into this, it's very difficult to get your Facebook profile removed. You need to sign an affidavit that you are next of kin to someone who has passed away in order to get your Facebook profile taken down. But there's been this beautiful thing that's happened with this individual's profile, and I would imagine a lot of you have similar experiences, where every now and then when you think of this person, we still just post to their wall. Every year on her birthday, there's a lot of remembrances, and it's become this odd digital gravesite for her, which is not something that Facebook was intending to do, but through forgetting to create a policy for this, this is kind of how things have ended up. And again, I wish there were scabies to end this story with, but it's become a very lovely thing. It's become a sort of odd remembrance point for this person. And my time is up. Thank you very much.